All right, thank you, Tanvi. So kind of just for quick introductions, my name is Laya, and I am the outreach lead for the Northville Robostangs. Tanvi, Savitri, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. My name's Anvi. I am a sophomore at Northville High School, and I'm an out member of the outreach subgroup.
Hi, I'm Savitri. I'm also a member of the outreach subgroup, and I'm a sophomore on the team.
Yep, and exactly like the namesake of our subgroup, welcome to the Outreach Opportunity Seminar. So for today, we only have four things that we mainly want to cover. Number one, we're going to talk about how we connect with organizations outside of your local community. Number two, we're going to talk about what your team can do to connect with those organizations. Number three, we're going to talk about the planning process that we use and what has worked for us. And number four, as we know, nothing is always perfect. So we also want to discuss how to tackle any obstacles that come our way when it comes to event planning. So, number one, how to connect with outside organizations. Anvi, you want to take it away?
Yep, so we will be providing a couple examples on how our team has achieved that. So, first, with our Girl Scout workshops, we contacted the Girl Scouts Heart of Michigan administration through email. They were very impressed with our previous work and the impact we are making on our community. They expressed interest in working with the Scouts and teaching the Scouts more about robotics. We finally exchanged several different emails and finally confirmed dates that best fit the Robostangs and the Scouts. Later on in the presentation, we'll go more in depth on what aspects you have to take into account when confirming dates.
Yep. Kind of still on the Google Girl Scouts side, but more into Google Girl Scouts. Google had reached out to our team after seeing our work and what we did for community, and they had wanted us to present at their event. So, like Anvi said, you could either reach out to an organization, or in this case, Google reached out to us.
So, with our Project India, we've been mentoring an FTC team in India for the last several years. We received the contact to the FTC team in India through another FTC mentor located here in Michigan. That's why it's so beneficial to bridge contacts because they can help advance your knowledge of FIRST robotics and it also help you establish useful sources outside of the state or even outside of the country in this case.
Yep. And kind of just to recap three that we went through. Number one, you can reach out to an outside organization. Number two, the organization can reach out to you. Or number three, the one we're going to mainly be talking about today is using connections within your own team to reach out and organize events with organizations. So obviously, before you get started with anything, you want to have a game plan, which is kind of what we have here. Number one, we want to start with brainstorming an event idea, and number two, determining your target audience for an event. Before you reach out to any contacts outside of your local community, you want to make sure you have a strong understanding of what you want to do and who you want to do it for. And once you have that, we encourage that you look into your own team for contacts, like how we did for Project India, and we will be talking about that a bit more later on. But if you can't really find anything within your own team, you can always find any regional contact information for organizations, whether it's on their websites or on their social media. And obviously, once you have that contact information, you should reach out to them, whether it's through a DM on Instagram or probably a preferred method would be the email. And hopefully, if they do agree to start planning an event with you and to collaborate with you, make sure that they are part of that collaboration and make sure that you are representing that organization well. Next, we're going to talk about what you can do as your own team. New ideas are always a great place to get started. Usually within our own team, we start looking within our community, whether it's doing events with our local library or with our school. But we always have to remember that we are a FIRST robotics team. So with our events, we do want to try and incorporate FIRST robotics ideals into the event. But other than that, when you are looking to collaborate with any other organization, if you want to start small, we do suggest that you maybe look into collaborating with classes or clubs in your school or your local library, like I talked about earlier. But also one thing that we highly suggest you can do, and maybe you guys might already be doing this, is partnering with your sponsors. And sponsors especially love this because partnering with your sponsors can help your sponsors ensure that they're attracting high schoolers into their companies. So they'll probably be very enthusiastic to work with you. But like I said earlier, please be sure to utilize connections within your own team. If any member of your team or any mentor in your team has a potential contact, you should be trying to utilize that. For example, in our own team, we have like one or two Boy Scouts, and we use that connection to get into contact with BSA or Boy Scouts of America. And we managed to create our very first Boy Scout workshop. And actually, this was a very new event as of 2 years ago, but now it's one of our more popular events.
So, like Laya said, we highly recommend that you utilize contacts within your own team. With one of our most popular outreach events, our Girl Scout workshops, we received a contact through one of our previous business captains, who was a Girl Scout herself. She gave us the contact to the Girl Scouts Heart of Michigan organization and helped us establish a relationship with them. Now, after planning, we have two popular Girl Scout events, the K-3 Girl Scouts and then the 4 to 5 Girl Scouts. The K-3 Girl Scouts, they usually participate in fun STEM crafts and then build a miniature Lego machine. Then the 4 to 5 Girl Scouts, they build and code EV3 robots, which compete in a competition. And after successfully completing this workshop, the Girl Scouts will either earn a coding or building badge, which acts as a representation of all they learned throughout the workshop and their strong understanding of robotics.
Yep, and as you can see here, we utilize two connections within our team to make two of our most popular outreach events. But now that you guys have seen the process that we go through and some examples of how we utilize connection within our own teams, we're going to split you guys up into groups so you guys can brainstorm how you can do the same within your own team. Because you guys are honestly probably already doing it. We just need to switch it so that you can make it into an event. So we are going to split you up into breakout rooms right now, and we can't wait to hear what you've come up with once we come back.
If you guys have any ideas, feel free to just turn off your mic and share.
I mean, one idea that we usually utilize in our team is like usually contacting like the robotics like students' parents' companies because they have like family contacts and things like that. So far that's like kind of worked for a few of our teams. So maybe we could go like a bit deeper into that. Maybe like potentially host events or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We even do that with some of our like the parents of members of our club. They also can help us out and they help us establish contacts and help us like work and plan events with their company as well. So we also do that. That's a really good idea. Any other ideas?
In our team, we go to churches and all kinds of schools in the area. We cover a county in the center of Pennsylvania. When we go to them, they often do summer STEM camps, and we offer to help facilitate STEM exercises for their STEM camps.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We also done like STEM fairs, STEM carnivals. So it's a really good idea to get out into your community and reach out.
Yeah, and for the fairs, we're in a small area, so we don't have a lot of fairs, but there are two or three large ones every year, and we offer to do some kind of demonstration and presentation at the fairs, and they typically take us up on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's always great to like reach out to your community, have them learn more about your robotics team. It's always a great idea to do that.
We've like done similar events too. Like this past year, we've done a couple of different STEM fairs where we bought our robot and like done a demonstration. Another thing we try to do when we go to these STEM fairs is we try to get like a lot of kids involved. So we like tell about like the different things that FIRST offers to try to see if they want to be a part of like a FIRST team, try to get them involved. We gave them like information about like the different resources that STEM FIRST provides and why it would be like a good idea. Do you think you guys like do something similar to that?
I would say we go in phases in terms of the maturity of the outcome of an outreach event. So we go with the intent of recruiting new members to the team, mentors for the team, and sponsors for the team. And so depending upon who we come in contact with and how good the quality of that contact is, we kind of pursue it and take it as far as it can go. And sometimes we end up with a new sponsor. Sometimes we end up with more ideas about how we can do outreach. As an example, um, I went to a local business development. It's like a chamber of commerce kind of meeting where I had a chance to interact with and meet a lot of new business people in the area. And one of the business people was the manager of our local minor league baseball team. And I got to talking to the guy, and I said, you're the one out here looking for money, so I feel bad asking you for money. He says, but wait a second, let's talk about how we could support one another with some kind of promotional opportunity. And so, literally, this Saturday, we're bringing
That's big like thing for technology. But yeah, I think contacting those clubs, contacting might want to look into if your district has a newsletter or not. I know you guys said your school has it. But yeah, this can get you guys a lot of great exposure and a lot of good participants and ideas coming up for sure. Hi, Tanvi. This is our business captain.
Just
Yeah,
checking
sure.
in. How's everything going, guys?
It's going good. Me and Anantika are we're in the same school and the same
Oh, the
robotics
same
team.
team. That's really
Yeah.
good.
So,
But they've got some great ideas. I think you guys said you wanted to do a STEAM fair thing. They have like a middle school and elementary school like connected to them. So I told them maybe look into finding a newsletter if their district has it. But yeah, you guys have a lot of great opportunities and also um sponsors as well. I think you guys mentioned you wanted to look into that more.
Yeah.
How's everyone else doing?
I know, Anantika, I think your sister is in the other breakout room.
Yeah.
Um, did you guys want to start like hosting events? Is that something your team is looking into?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that's what we were talking about earlier, but we're like earlier with like a STEM fair or something to gain more awareness.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. And I think Laya's going to show you like a layout about how we kind of go about planning some of our bigger events. So I think that's what you're looking into, right? Like stepping into that maybe
Yeah.
bigger spanned event. That's a great idea.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about the planning process like as soon as we get back.
Where like you said, building like a robot in like 3 hours. We have something called like EV3 robots or like sumo bots. They're like miniature robots where we have some like workshops, like Girl Scouts workshop for the advanced one. They learn how to build these miniature EV3 robots, and then they have like a little competition at the end. And so like that's one way we like utilize like how to like utilize programming and building and getting like kids involved on the STEM like aspects.
We also do like some partnership with like this is a bit different, but we do like partnerships with other clubs in our school too. This isn't for like sponsorship, but it's more like to like bring more people into our robotics team. And mostly we're like our other STEM clubs. Like we have a Science Olympia team and like a FEMS, which is like female STEM club. And I think this year we're like hosting a STEM fair where it's like all three of our clubs, but like we're trying to get more people from different STEM clubs to like also try out robotics maybe as like a different thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Actually, we also try to like reach out to other clubs within our own school. Like previously, we had a STEM carnival and STEM fair. So there's a club in our school that focuses on emphasizing STEM and focuses on teaching kids in our school more about STEM. So they had like a fair in another high school, and we were invited to market our team, showcase our robots. So that's also another great way to market and just get more members involved. So I really like that idea. It's always great to utilize contacts within your own school.
And also, if you want to like promote a little bit more about like what you're doing and get more clubs involved, you can always like reach out to your school. And we have weekly like newsletters, and sometimes they can mention like different things that are happening, different events that are happening. So you can always see if your school is willing to promote any different event that you're having as well.
So these are some great ideas being shared, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Anvi, but I'm gonna wrap up all the rooms so we can join back into the main one. And if you guys want to continue discussing new ideas and brainstorming, then you were welcome to stay back towards the end of the presentation. But for now, I think the other room is set to go, so we'll just join back to the main room.
So now that you guys have some of your ideas, and I heard it was going well within the break rooms, we're going to talk about a planning process and what can work, what hasn't worked for us personally as a team. But just heading straight into that, obviously, a lot of your teams are probably made up of high school students, and high school students do a lot. So when you are planning your events, you want to take into dates because obviously that's a very important aspect. So we usually try to avoid events around AP exam season, final exam season, during or like a couple days before any holiday breaks. And obviously, we're not too heavy on having events on, when we have our FRC competitions. But also, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of your kids or a lot of your team members probably have a lot going on for them, whether they're in other clubs or not. And you might want to take into consideration the competition dates for one of these bigger clubs because you don't want to be missing out on any potential volunteers or participants because they're gone for another competition or because they're busy studying or on holiday as well. So when you are looking into days, I know this might seem like a lot of things to take into account, but you really do want to take them into account because you want to make sure that you choose a date where the majority of volunteers can be available for you, or the majority of participants are willing and able to come to your event as well. Oh, there you go.
So another important aspect to be aware of is that the activities the kids participate in are properly catered towards their age group. Like I said earlier, the K-3 students, they usually do easier activities on a smaller scale. So they usually participate in STEM crafts. Some of the previous STEM crafts they've participated in are sea animal crafts, bracelets, which both allow them the kids to utilize their creative liberty. Then we also have a Lego building competition, which allows the kids to collaborate with others. And then the K-3 students also participate in a Lego structure. They build a Lego structure that can be manually moved and it does not require coding. And then the 4 to 5 students, they have more difficulty and they do everything on a larger scale. So they also participate in STEM crafts. They usually participate in catapults or bridge building competitions, which require them to collaborate with others and learn how to work with others as well. Then we also have a Shark Tank, which allows the kids to learn more about business ideals and communication skills and confidence. Then they also build and code a EV3 robot, which competes in a competition between other EV3 robots.
Yep, and along with determining your dates and your target audience, there's obviously a lot more that goes behind the scenes for the planning process. And I split it up here into 3 parts: logistics, volunteering, and marketing. Logistics wise, when you are planning an event, you obviously need a space to conduct said event. And so we always make sure to book our spaces in advance. I would suggest that maybe should try and contact your school because they might be able to offer you spaces or have you rent spaces out for free. So that's definitely a great place to conduct some events. Number 2, we always love creating registration forms because it helps us keep track of who is coming to our event and like the statistics of it, like how many people, what their age ranges are, and like their names and grades. And it helps us just get a better understanding of who is interested in our events and like what their statistics are. Number 3, I'm sure everyone already does this already, but agendas and timetables, and it's just for our sake to help us know that the event is running smoothly and on time. And something that we do a lot is kit sorting because most of our events use Lego kits. Like Anvi said earlier, a lot of them use EV3 kits. So we always make sure that those kits are sorted before an event. But if your event isn't necessarily using Lego kits, then this doesn't really apply to you. And finally, we always make sure that we have a presentation for the participants and we just run through it really quickly before we start the event, just so the participants know what they're getting into and what the expectations are as well. For volunteering, we use Sign Up Geniuses, and this helps us keep track of who is signed up for what, and it helps us assign them assign them assignments essentially. And we also have training slides as well, and these training slides let the volunteers know what the event is, what is expected of them, and what they specifically are going to be doing at the event. And these training slides are very important because honestly, training can make or break an event based on like how the experience was for the participants. And marketing, which we will be diving into on a deeper level later. We have flyers that we send out on social media or put up on like bulletins at the library, or we send out a mass email to parents and students that were previously interested in our events. But like I said, we will be diving into that on a deeper level later on.
So now we will be showcasing some of our example training slides from a previous outreach event we held actually last week.
You guys can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so this is our example training slides. So we like to include a brief description of what that event is. So the dates for the event, who the event is catered towards, and then a brief description of what the kids are going to be doing throughout the whole event. Then we like to include their main objectives, so their main responsibilities throughout the whole event. Then we include their expectations. So for this event, it was absolutely no phones and then being role models. Then afterwards, we like to list out the volunteer assignments, and then we go more in depth on what each assignment has to do. So team leads and floaters, group leads, referees. We just give a brief description of what they do, and then we give a brief description of what the crafts are. So we list out what the necessary supplies are for the crafts and usually how to make the craft as well, any additional comments. And we keep going through all the different crafts. So craft and advanced camp crafts, the same thing. We keep going through all of them. Craft 3, Craft 4. Then for shop tour, for a lot of our events, we like to include the shop tour. So during the shop tour, the volunteers will give a little demo of one of our previous season's robot, and then they'll also give a tour of the different machines in our shop area. So then afterwards, we have picture frame, snacks, robot time, then dress code. We usually like our volunteers to wear Robostang Pride, and then if they don't have their Robostang merch, they can wear our school's colors. And afterwards, we have some last minute points. We make sure we emphasize that if something goes wrong or if kids are acting troublesome, then they can go to certain people who will help them go from there and direct them to other stations. And then afterwards, we list out our assignments for the different events we have. So moving on, now we will be discussing checklists. So checklist is one way that our team tries to make the whole planning process less intimidating and also more organized. So the checklist is usually split into a couple columns. Each column of the checklist will include the task that is necessary to complete, the start date when we want to start working on it, the end date when we hope the task will be done, student leads, who's in charge of that task, notes, so any additional comments, status for each task. There's 3 statuses: in progress, completed, or not started, and then a link to a useful document. So if that task is the registration form, then we're going to link the registration form for participants to sign up.
Yep, and now we're gonna, just like how we showed you an example of the training slide, we're gonna show you an example of both a blank checklist and a full checklist. So as we can see on the blank one, we have our statuses of not started, in progress, and completed. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. We have our project leads and our project mentors, so kids can know who they need to go to if they ever have a question. We have our groups here, which is marketing, volunteering, logistics, and any extras if we need them. This is where our tasks are, our start date and end date, so we know what we want to do and when we need to do it by, and this just helps keep us on track. And for our team, at least, we have members and subgroups, but these student leads is just the specific student who is taking charge on these specific tasks, and the members is just anyone who they might need help with. Notes is just like a generalization of what the task is and what you need to include and get done in the tasks. And links to any external documents, like maybe a website or a Google Doc that you might need. And contacts is like if you potentially need to order shirts, for example, the contact would be like the phone number of who you need to call to order the shirts, or it's just any external help you might need to get to complete the task. And this is, since we are just continuing with the RoboCamp theme, I suppose, this is our RoboCamp checklist. And honestly, this was a lifesaver. As you can see here, everything is completed because we did just have this event last week, but we do have all the 3 here. And we have logistics, volunteering, setup. See, the setup and the post event are the 2 extras that we had included in. We have all of our tasks here. We have some start dates here and some end dates here. It's a little scattered. The project leads for myself and the InReach lead who you will meet on Friday. And we had student leads such as, it's just my name here, but we had Anvi and Savitri helping out, and branding, we had them help out as well. And like we have here, we have notes, whether it's like what we need to include in the flyer and any links to any documents like Sign Up Geniuses or Google Forms. So that's just a quick example. And this QR code here will take you to the blank checklist if you ever want to use it. But we will be sending this slideshow out later on as well. So you can check it out there.
So, one of the most important aspects of any outreach event is marketing. Our team usually tries to market by creating a flyer. So, the flyer will include a QR code of the registration form for participants to sign up, then location of the event, timing/dates, contact information. We usually put our email, and then fun, eye-catching colors. We send the flyer to the schools that match the grade level requirement of the event, and then we also send the flyer to your district if they have a newsletter or any other way to reaching out to parents or people who would be interested in our event. And then here is an example flyer from one of our previous outreach events, RoboCamp. So we have all of the different requirements that I listed out on the previous slide. And then the theme for this event was Under the Sea. So we made sure that theme was obvious by using fun eye-catching colors and sea creatures just to make it fun and obvious and fun to look at.
Yep, and we usually send these flyers out on all of our social media platforms, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or sometimes Snapchat. And we also print these flyers and put them out on the local school bulletin boards or at the library as well. So don't be afraid to use any of your social medias. But we also use our mailing list, which I know we touched upon earlier. But to go into the specifics, our mailing list is just a Google form that parents or students have filled out if they had shown an interest in one of our robotics events or our pipeline program, which will also be discussed on Friday with Manya. So make sure you go to that. But essentially, this is a mailing list where they can fill out a Google form on our website with the student's name, all their contact information, and their graduation year. And their graduation year does help us make sure that we can send them grade-specific events. And actually, this was a very helpful tool for us because we had started a new program, a new event called K-3 Kickstart, and it was brand new, and we didn't have many participants the first round we did it, but after we utilized this marketing technique, it doubled in participants, so we can definitely say that a mass email does work.
So the last topic we will be discussing today is how to tackle obstacles.
Yep.
So one of the most common obstacles you may face is lack of participants signed up. So as a team near to the business side, you may have less participants signed up for your event at first, but at the end of the day, numbers aren't everything. What's more important is the impact that you're leaving on the kids and their excitement throughout the event. And they can, for instance, with one of our previous workshops, our Boy Scout workshops, which we actually held last year, we had a smaller number of participants signed up, but that came with many different advantages. The volunteers could be more interactive and have more one-on-one time with the participants. That's why it's so important to emphasize during training, while training the volunteers, that they're aware of the importance of all the kids interacting and all the kids getting the best learning experience. So please make sure you emphasize that during training, because like Laya said earlier, training will make or break your event. And then also, if you are interested in expanding your outreach events regionally, then we do suggest you utilize those marketing methods that we stated earlier in the presentation, and then also pick dates that aren't on conflicting dates.
Yep, like Anvi said, if you are trying to expand your event, which you don't necessarily have to, marketing well does help a lot. As you can see here, before we had marketed properly, or when we had our first couple of events for Boy Scouts, we had Boy Scouts and K-3 Kickstart, we had less than a two-digit number, but for Girl Scouts, we had 35. And after utilizing the techniques such as sending out newsletters, putting up flyers, sending out flyers, and using a mass email, we can see that Boy Scouts almost tripled, Girl Scouts nearly doubled, and K-3 Kickstart did double. So please, please, please make sure that if you are trying to expand your reach for your events, that you do make sure that you market well and choose well dates, and that these techniques can really help you. So I do hope that you utilize them.
So, on the day of your event, you may experience different obstacles. One of the obstacles you may potentially face is miscommunication between volunteers. So, this could be an example, could be if one volunteer tells another volunteer that they're leaving early or they're going to take this kid to one side to do this activity. They're only telling one volunteer, they're not telling all of the other volunteers. So, not every volunteer is up to date and aware of where that kid is going or where that volunteer is going. So, it's important that everyone's aware of what's happening in order for the event to run smoothly. And a way to tackle this obstacle is by creating a Slack channel with the volunteers of your event, and then also Slack messaging between event leads, because constant communication can just make the event run smoother. And then one other common obstacle you may potentially face is conflict resolution between participants. So some examples of this could be is when one kid is slightly shy or doesn't feel like interacting with the rest of the team, or when one kid is overpowering everything and trying to do most of the work and the workload isn't being evenly distributed between the team. So a way to tackle this obstacle is by separating the kids for a little bit and supervising the kids as they talk out any issues, assigning each participant a different role that still allows them to contribute equally to the group. And these are just some of the main obstacles you may face, because at the end of the day, the crisis will change based on the day and the event. So please be prepared to tackle any obstacle that might come your way.
Yep, and that brings us to the end of our presentation. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat and Savitri will read them out loud and we will try to answer them to the best of our abilities.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question, since you put the full schedule up
Yes.
for the first pipeline on Friday. What do you mean by pipeline? Is it specifically recruiting kids for the team?
So our pipeline programs are like the first program. So it goes from FL Discover to FL Challenge to FTC and those programs. So what we do is we create first teams in each program, and we call that our pipeline into potentially the FRC team once we kind of go through it. So
Okay,
our goal
thank
is
you.
like they start from a young age and they go through first to eventually join our team.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for coming. And if
Thank
you
you.
guys want to keep in contact with us, we would love to keep talking to you.
So make sure you filled out that attendance form if you want these slides as well. Very important.
I have a quick question. What I guess it's kind of broad, but like what do you do if you're realizing like a activity isn't working? Like do you have like I guess a process to see if it works before you do the event, or do you like I guess how does that work?
Could you give me kind of a little bit more specific?
Yeah, sorry. So like personally, I'm like if you were figuring out a good activity for the kids, depending on the age range, would you rather like maybe have some kids come in as like a demo practice and see if it works with the kids? Or do you do it and then if it doesn't work, you like talk to your team about it? I guess like how does that process work?
Yeah, so crafts can be tricky, obviously. Not everyone is too handy with them. But what we usually do is we have a brainstorm of a good solid number of crafts for each age group. And what we do is we choose the ones that we like, if we were like their age, that we would enjoy the most, or if we were our age now, what we would enjoy the most. And once we have those chosen crafts, we still have our backup options. And we just like maybe like 2 weeks before the event, we test each of them out to make sure that they work properly and that there's not too many complications. And then if a craft doesn't work, since we have our backup options, we usually just pluck one from there and try again.
In addition to that, and during our training slides, we also make sure that the volunteers of the Robostangs are prepared to make these crafts. So we usually link a video to how to make these crafts so that they know what to do and how to teach like the kids on the event day.
Yeah, and to add to that as well, we always have volunteers come slightly before the actual event starts so that craft leads can make each craft on their own before like students or whoever we're outsourcing the event to, like before they actually come to make these crafts, the craft should already be run by at least 2 to 3 people to make sure they're easy to do and all of that happens.
Yeah, we also try to provide a couple examples of those crafts at the actual event. And then also, like I said earlier, it's really important that you have a whole Slack channel with all the volunteers. So maybe you can Slack them with any additional updates. So make sure you watch the craft videos, make sure you know how to make the craft. So it's important to just emphasize that.
Yep. And like we said earlier, training does make everything. So like Tanvi said, like Savitri said, like Anvi said, you want to make sure that your craft leads know what they're doing. And occasionally we also have like a written out step by step of how to make the craft as well if it's needed.